I was 16 when I realized my parents didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a second mother, minus the love, minus the respect, and definitely minus the freedom. My name's Lila, and by the time most kids my age were figuring out what they wanted to wear to school or who they were crushing on, I was already deep into grocery lists, dish duty, and keeping track of my little brother's homework schedule like some unpaid assistant with a permanent smile glued to her face. The problem was never just that they gave me responsibilities. It was the way they never gave them to him. Owen, my younger brother by barely 2 years, was treated like a prince. No, like a delicate heir to some invisible throne. And me? I was the handmaid that came with the palace. I didn't always resent it. At first, I thought it meant they trusted me, that I was the mature one. My mom would say it with pride in her voice, like it was a compliment I should wear like a badge. Lila always helps out. She's so responsible. She's not like other teenagers. And I believed her. I wanted to be that person. So I smiled when she handed me laundry to fold, even when it wasn't mine. I nodded when she asked me to prep dinner because she'd had a long day at work, even if I had just gotten back from a full day of school and volleyball practice. I bit my tongue when my dad would walk right past Owen lying on the couch with his phone and say, "Lila, could you get your brother a snack?" As if Owen had lost the use of his legs. But even the strongest dam cracks under pressure. And mine was quietly filling with resentment, drip by drip, every time someone handed me a chore and patted Owen on the back for doing the bare minimum. The house was always bustling with noise in the mornings, but somehow Owen remained untouched by it all. It didn't matter if it was a school day or the weekend. He got his sleep in while I was up at the crack of dawn. My mom claimed it was because boys need more sleep during puberty. She read that somewhere, probably on the back of a cereal box. Meanwhile, I was expected to set the alarm, get breakfast going, pack lunches, and sometimes even make sure Owen's homework was in his bag. And if I dared to forget something? Lila, how could you be so careless? You know how much Owen struggles to stay organized. Right. Heaven forbid he be held accountable for his own life. It wasn't just the chores. It was the way they talked about us, even to others. One Sunday afternoon, we had family friends over, Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence and their daughter, Kira, who was my age but somehow lived like a normal teenager. While we were all chatting in the backyard, my mom laughed and said, "Oh, Owen's our baby. He's got such a gentle heart. And Lila, well, she's basically my right hand. I don't know what I'd do without her." Mrs. Lawrence smiled and said, "That's wonderful, Lila. You must be so helpful around the house." And I nodded, not sure whether to feel proud or sick. I looked at Owen. He was reclining in a lawn chair with a soda in one hand and a smirk on his face like he'd just won the lottery. I think that's when the switch started to flip. Not all at once, but something inside me blinked awake and started paying closer attention. I began noticing the little things I used to let slide, like how Owen never had to wash his own plate after dinner, but if I left mine in the sink, I'd hear about it before I made it up the stairs. Or how he could leave his dirty laundry on the floor and Mom would say, "Boys will be boys," but if I didn't fold the towels right, it was, "Lila, you're better than this." One morning, I woke up early as usual and found Owen's school project on the dining table, unfinished. I stared at it for a long time. He had a presentation that day. I knew he'd forgotten. I also knew my mom would wake up, freak out, and ask me to help him finish it. It had happened before, but this time I didn't touch it. I made breakfast, packed his lunch, and sat across from him when he finally dragged himself downstairs 10 minutes before we had to leave. He stared at the project, eyes wide, and then at me. "Did you finish it?" he asked, like it was obvious. "No," I said, "it's your project." His jaw twitched. "You always help me." I shrugged and kept eating. He stormed off to get dressed, and 5 minutes later, Mom was at my door. "Lila, what happened with Owen's project?" I kept my voice even. "I didn't touch it. It's his." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "That's not how we do things in this house." That line rattled in my head the entire car ride. Not how we do things. As in, I had broken an unspoken rule. The rule that I existed to make Owen's life easier? I didn't say anything. But that night, I didn't fold the laundry either. Or prep the lunches. Or wipe down the counters. And when they noticed, it was as if the world had tilted off its axis. My mom scolded me, my dad asked if I was going through a phase, and Owen had the audacity to mutter under his breath, "So you're just lazy now?" That one stuck with me. Lazy. I was up at 6 every morning, cleaning their messes, handling responsibilities I never agreed to. And the first time I paused, I was lazy. Still, I didn't argue. Not yet. I just started saying less, doing less, observing more. I wanted to see how far they'd take it, how quickly the balance would fall apart if I stopped being the glue. Spoiler, it didn't take long. Dinners were late. Lunches were forgotten. The laundry piled up. Owen lost a library book and blamed me. My mom found the trash overflowing and gave me a full lecture on personal responsibility while Owen walked past us barefoot, stepping over the trash like it wasn't there. But the breaking point didn't come from the chores. It came from my birthday. I turned 17 on a Tuesday. Not a big milestone, but I'd hoped for something. Maybe a cake, a card, a happy birthday, without it being an afterthought. But when I walked downstairs that morning, the house was dark. No balloons, no pancakes, no one waiting to surprise me. I made my own toast, packed my own bag, sat at the table in silence while Owen slept in. Again, by the time my mom came down, she was already running late for work. She barely looked at me. "Lila, did you remember to take the chicken out of the freezer?" I blinked. "Do you know what day it is?" She frowned, checked her watch. "Tuesday." I waited. Nothing. Just as she turned to leave, I said quietly, "It's my birthday." She stopped. "Oh, right." She gave a thin smile. "Well, happy birthday, honey. Sorry, I'm swamped today. We'll do something this weekend, okay?" I nodded. She left. That night, there was no dinner out. No cake. Just frozen pizza and silence. Owen complained there were no pepperonis on his slice. I stared at the TV screen as the credits of some sitcom rolled, and something inside me just collapsed. And that, right there, was the moment I decided I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. But I didn't explode. Not right away. I waited. I watched. And I planned. I didn't pack my bags that night. I wanted to. I really did. But instead, I went to my room, shut the door, and stared at the walls for what felt like hours. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was loud. My brain kept replaying every moment of that day like a cruel montage. Waking up alone, the blank look on my mom's face, the half-hearted, "We'll do something this weekend." Owen picking olives off his pizza like that was the biggest injustice of the evening. And the worst part? No one noticed I was hurting. Not even a little. I was invisible unless they needed something. The next day, I got up and went through the motions. Not because I'd forgiven them, but because I wanted to see what would happen if I kept pretending. I took the chicken out of the freezer. I loaded the dishwasher. I texted Owen to remind him about his math test. I smiled when my dad asked if the laundry was done. And they all just accepted it. Like the day before hadn't happened. Like I hadn't spent my birthday alone, eating cold toast while my parents forgot I existed. I think that's when the last piece of me that still wanted to be part of this family started to die. Because now I knew. It wasn't a one-time oversight. It was a pattern. A belief system. I wasn't the daughter. I was the help. That Friday, the betrayal came. And it came quietly, like everything else in our house. No screaming, no drama. Just a quiet little knife slipped between the ribs while you're too distracted to brace for the pain. It started with the parent-teacher night. I didn't ask them to come. I'd learned not to expect that. They'd shown up to a couple when I was younger, mostly when Owen and I were still in elementary school. But after I hit high school, it was like I stopped needing check-ins. My grades were good, my teachers liked me, and more importantly, I didn't cause problems. Owen, on the other hand, had a permanent seat reserved for my parents in the front row. If he so much as missed a homework assignment, my mom was scheduling a meeting. So when I saw both their names on the sign-in sheet that night, I actually smiled a little. Maybe they were here for me. Maybe the birthday guilt finally kicked in. Maybe they were trying to make up for it. I spotted them standing near the refreshments table, holding plastic cups of lukewarm coffee. My dad waved. My mom smiled. I felt this little flicker of hope, until I saw Owen walking behind them. "Oh," I said, trying to sound casual. I didn't know Owen was coming. My mom sipped her coffee and shrugged. "Well, Mr. Delgado emailed me last night about Owen's science grade. It's dipping. We thought we'd drop in, see what's going on." I blinked. "Wait, so you're not here for me?" My dad looked confused. "Well, you're doing fine, right?" I felt my stomach twist. "Yeah, I guess." And that was it. "No, how are your classes?" "No, we're proud of you." Just a half-hearted confirmation that I wasn't falling apart, so they didn't need to bother. The final gut punch came an hour later. We were standing in the hallway near Owen's science class when I heard my mom talking to another parent. It's tough, she was saying, having a son who needs so much support. But we're always there for him. He just has such a sensitive spirit, you know? Meanwhile, our daughter, Lila, she's so independent. Honestly, sometimes I forget she's still in high school. She laughed. She laughed like it was a compliment. I didn't say anything then. I didn't even look at her. I just turned around, walked to the nearest bathroom, locked the stall, and sat down. And I cried. Not loudly. Not in a way anyone could hear. Just silent tears, because that's the only kind I was allowed to have in our house. Quiet emotions. Quiet breakdowns. Quiet daughter. When we got home, I told them I had homework and went straight to my room. But I didn't do homework. I opened a notebook and started writing everything down. Every time they'd overlooked me. Every time I'd been called responsible like it was a punishment. Every time Owen got praised for doing something I'd been doing every day since I was 12. And for the first time in years, I let myself feel angry. Not sad. Not disappointed. Angry. I wanted out. But more than that, I wanted them to realize what they had lost. A week later, I got my chance. It started with a weekend trip. Not a vacation. Just one of those extended family get-togethers that happen once a year to remind you why you don't like your extended family. My mom's sister, Aunt Celeste, was hosting at her lake house. Everyone was going, cousins, uncles, people I barely remembered. My mom was excited. My dad pretended to be. Owen was dreading it. And me? I was watching from the sidelines again, waiting for the moment they'd assign me the role of trip coordinator without asking. That Friday, the night before we were supposed to leave, my mom handed me a list. Just a few things to pack for the trip. Toiletries, snacks, sunscreen. And make sure Owen remembers his charger this time. I scanned the list. It was 2 pages long. This is for me. For us, she corrected, as if that changed anything. And what's Owen doing? I asked. She shrugged. He's finishing his gaming tournament thing. You know how important that is to him. Of course I did. His online game team was named after some kind of pasta. He spent more time with them than with any of us. But God forbid we interrupt the sacred duty of digital warfare to ask him to throw some towels in a bag. That night, I packed. But not for them. I waited until everyone was asleep. Then I pulled out my own duffel and started folding my clothes with the precision of someone escaping a sinking ship. I didn't have a full plan yet. I just knew I wasn't going to that lake house. And I wasn't staying in this house much longer either. But before I left, I wanted them to feel it. The next morning, I pretended like everything was fine. I helped load the car. I smiled when my mom handed me a bag of snacks. Owen grumbled about the Wi-Fi situation at the lake. My dad tried to mediate a fake family vibe by playing old 80s music. I was quiet. And when we got there, I played the role. The helpful daughter. The quiet observer. The background character. Until Sunday afternoon. We were all sitting at a long table outside, eating grilled chicken and potato salad. My aunt was talking about her new kitchen renovation. My uncle was complaining about taxes. And then the conversation shifted, somehow, to kids and their responsibilities. My mom, of course, launched into her usual speech. Lila's our little manager. Honestly, I don't know how this house would function without her. She's so mature. Everyone nodded. I kept chewing. And Owen? Aunt Celeste asked. My mom smiled. Owen's our dreamer. He's got such a creative mind. I just don't want to crush that spirit, you know? They all nodded again. And that's when Owen said, with a mouth full of chicken, yeah, well, Lila kind of likes doing all that stuff anyway. Makes her feel important. Everyone laughed. Even my mom. And something in me snapped. I didn't say anything at the table. I didn't storm off. But that night, while they were all inside watching a movie, I walked out to the dock and sat at the edge with my feet in the water, thinking. Not just about the trip. Not just about Owen. But about all of it. About how I'd spent 17 years earning a place in a family that only wanted a servant. About how I'd let myself believe that if I worked hard enough, they'd see me. Really see me. And in that moment, I realized something awful. They never would. They didn't want a daughter. They wanted a placeholder. And I was done being one. I stood up, walked back to the house, and packed my bag. I didn't tell anyone. I just zipped it shut, grabbed it by the handles, and stepped out the front door into the cold night air, heart pounding. But just as I reached the edge of the driveway, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mom. One sentence. We need you to do breakfast tomorrow. That was the moment everything crystallized. The breaking point. The betrayal wasn't a slap or a scream. It was that one line. That casual assumption that I'd still be there, that I hadn't noticed, that I hadn't changed. I stared at the message, and I didn't reply. I turned off my phone, looked out at the dark road ahead of me, and took the first step. I didn't have a plan, just a full bag and a firm decision that I wasn't going to make breakfast for people who didn't even say goodnight, let alone happy birthday. I walked half a mile down the gravel road that led away from my aunt's lake house, my sneakers crunching against loose stones, and my phone still turned off in my pocket. I don't know what I thought I'd find at the end of that road. Freedom? A sign? Some kind of instant relief? All I found was a wooden bench at the edge of the lake, just past the mailbox line where the pine trees cleared out into open sky. I sat there in the cold for hours, hoodie pulled tight, the straps of my duffel cutting into my shoulder. My breath made little clouds in the air. I probably looked ridiculous. A teenage girl running away from home without a single backup plan. But I didn't feel ridiculous. I felt hollow. And that hollow space? It was the first time in years that I hadn't felt cramped by expectations and orders and guilt. I was alone, but I wasn't suffocating. Around midnight, I turned my phone back on. A flurry of messages popped up like fireworks. Mom, Lila? Dad, where are you? Mom, are you trying to be dramatic? Owen, seriously? You made Mom cry. Mom, Lila, you are overreacting. We need to talk. I didn't reply. I just scrolled and scrolled, looking for something that wasn't there. No, we're sorry. No, are you okay? No, we love you. Just panic. Blame. Annoyance. That night, I messaged someone I hadn't talked to in over a year, my cousin Mia. She was 21 and had moved out the moment she graduated high school. Our family treated her like a cautionary tale. Don't be like Mia, running away just because she didn't like doing chores. But I remembered her differently. She was bold. She had fire. And she never apologized for wanting her own life. I used to admire her. Secretly. Quietly. The way you admire someone you're too afraid to become. I sent one message. Me, hey. I know it's late. I'm near the lake house. I need somewhere to go. Please don't tell my parents. 10 minutes later, she sent an address and a thumbs up emoji. She didn't ask why. She didn't lecture me. She just helped. That ride to Mia's apartment was quiet. She didn't push me to explain, and I was too drained to speak. Her place was small, barely more than a studio, but it felt like a palace. There was a futon in the corner and a chipped table with mismatched chairs, and I nearly cried from how warm and peaceful it was. She handed me a blanket, a glass of water, and said, "You can stay as long as you want. Just one rule, no walking on eggshells here." I didn't sleep much that night. Too many thoughts buzzing like static. But I finally felt safe. The next morning, I woke up to a different kind of silence. One that didn't demand anything from me. No chores. No yelling. Just the sound of Mia making eggs in the kitchen while some indie song played from her Bluetooth speaker. She looked over and grinned. Hungry? I nodded. And for the first time in forever, someone made breakfast for me. We talked. Slowly. I told her what had happened. Not all at once, just piece by piece, like unpacking bruises that never got to heal. She listened. Really listened. No interruptions, no excuses for my parents. Just empathy. You know, she said as she sipped her coffee. They're going to spin this like you betrayed them. I already knew that. I'd seen the pattern for years. The way they twisted every moment I pushed back into a narrative where I was the problem. The ungrateful daughter. The selfish one. The moody teen. But you didn't betray them, she continued. You just stopped betraying yourself. I didn't say anything. Just stared at my scrambled eggs and let that sentence carve a permanent space in my chest. The fallout came quickly. My mom called every day. Sometimes she left voicemails. Sometimes she just texted walls of guilt. We gave you everything. You're being brainwashed. You'll regret this. Owen even sent a voice memo that was mostly him sighing and muttering. This is so extra. Just come home. I blocked them. It wasn't easy. I cried when I hit block on my mom's number. My hand shook when I did the same to my dad's. But I needed the noise to stop. I needed space to think without the echo of their disappointment in my ears. Mia helped me get a part-time job at the cafe where she worked. It was just a few shifts a week at first, clearing tables, wiping counters, refilling coffee. Nothing glamorous. But every hour I worked was mine. Every dollar I earned had my name on it. And no one expected me to fold someone else's laundry afterward. I enrolled in online classes through the local community college's dual enrollment program. Using my school records and an emergency form Mia helped me file. The counselor I spoke to didn't ask too many questions, just nodded when I said I needed a flexible schedule. I told my school I was transferring out due to family relocation. I figured they didn't need the full soap opera. For the first time in my life, I had control over my time. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't all triumphant music and sunrise montages. There were days I wanted to call home. Days I questioned everything. Days I woke up wondering if I'd made it all worse by walking away. The guilt didn't vanish. It lingered like fog. And rebuilding wasn't quick. It was slow and painful, and I had to unlearn years of thinking my worth came from how much I did for other people. The worst part was how quiet it was. Not the apartment. Mia always had something playing, from true crime podcasts to bad sitcoms. But the emotional quiet. I was so used to noise, so used to being needed. I didn't realize how much of my identity had been wrapped around other people's expectations. Without that, I felt empty, like a blank slate. And that was terrifying. But slowly, that blank slate became freedom. I started journaling. Not like a Dear Diary thing, but lists. Things I liked. Things I wanted to try. Things that scared me. I wrote, cook for myself, and take a bus alone, and sleep in past 9. Little things, but to me, they were rebellions. I dyed my hair, just the ends, a soft blue that looked like sea glass under the light. I thought Mia would tease me, but she just said, "Took you long enough." I even bought my own cheap laptop, using 2 paychecks worth of tips and a coupon code, and started taking graphic design tutorials online. I didn't know what I wanted to be yet, but for the first time, I had the space to imagine it. Meanwhile, Mia was my rock. She taught me how to budget, how to cook more than just eggs, and how to say no, without adding a dozen apologies after. She never hovered, never parented me. She just supported me, like a real family should. 2 months in, I got promoted to front counter at the cafe. I still wore the apron, still mopped the floors, but now I got to greet people, take orders, smile because I wanted to, not because it was expected. The regulars learned my name. One even asked if I was in school, and said, "Smart girl like you, you'll go far." I almost cried in the back room, because he saw me. One day, as I was walking to the bus stop, I passed a mother yelling at her daughter in the parking lot. The girl looked about 10. She was holding a smoothie and tearing up as her mom scolded her for spilling some of it on the car seat. I froze, not because the scene was unfamiliar, but because it wasn't. That used to be me, always one mistake away from guilt, always told I had ruined something. And in that moment, I knew, whatever pain I still carried from my family, I wasn't going back. Not to apologize, not to explain, not even to argue, because I wasn't theirs anymore. I was mine. The rise wasn't a single moment. It was hundreds of little ones. Saying no to a shift when I needed rest. Helping a customer because I wanted to, not because I was told to. Sleeping in. Laughing with Mia. Getting an email saying I passed my first college class with an A. It was all of those things and none of them. It was the quiet knowledge that I was healing. And that healing wasn't about revenge. It was about wholeness. Still, a part of me wondered, did they miss me? Did they regret it? Did they even understand what they'd done? And then, a letter came. A real one. Mailed. With my name on it, in my mom's handwriting. I stared at it for a long time. And when I finally opened it, well, let's just say it didn't go the way I thought it would. The envelope was thin, white. The kind you buy in bulk at office supply stores. My name was written neatly across the front in my mother's familiar, careful handwriting. Lila Grace, underlined twice. No return address, just a single forever stamp and the postmark from my hometown. It had been nearly 3 months since I left. 3 months since I'd blocked their numbers, ignored their emails, and resisted the occasional urge to check Owen's social media, just to see if they were pretending everything was fine. I sat on Mia's futon with the envelope in my lap, turning it over like it might detonate. I don't know what I expected to feel, anger, anxiety, maybe even hope, but all I felt was distance. Like the name on the front of that letter belonged to a different girl. Someone who still cried when her mom forgot her birthday. Someone who still believed she could earn her parents' love if she just worked hard enough. I opened it. The letter inside was only a page long. My mom's voice echoed from every sentence. Tight, formal, emotionally guarded. "Lila, I hope you're safe. We haven't heard from you in weeks, and while I don't agree with the way you left, I want you to know the door is always open. Your father and I are deeply hurt by your decision, especially after everything we've done for you. Owen is struggling. Your absence has affected him more than I expected. He's falling behind in school and seems angry all the time. I hope you'll consider coming home. I think, with time and communication, we can move past this phase and get back to being a family again. You're almost 18. Decisions have consequences. Please remember who's always been there for you. Love, Mom. That last line, please remember who's always been there for you, burned. Not because it was true, but because it wasn't. And she knew it. I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the envelope. Then I went to the kitchen, grabbed a magnet off Mia's fridge, and stuck it right next to her grocery list. Not because I needed to remember it, but because I needed to see it every day. I needed to remember how far I'd come. Mia read it later that night while waiting for her pasta to boil. She didn't say anything until she reached the last line. Then she let out a dry laugh and said, "Well, that's manipulative." I raised my eyebrows. "You think it's bait?" "Absolutely," she said. "They're losing control of you, and they hate it. So now they're dangling guilt like a fishing line. They want you to bite." I nodded slowly. She was right. I'd seen the same tactics in different forms for years. This was just a new coat of paint. But this time, I wasn't a child staring at a wall of disappointment, trying to make sense of it. I was someone else now. Someone they hadn't accounted for. And that's when the idea started. It wasn't revenge at first. Not exactly. It was more like curiosity. A question, sharp and quiet. What would happen if I stopped playing by their rules altogether? What would happen if I finally took all the skills, all the organization, all the behind-the-scenes knowledge I had about our family, and turned it into leverage? I wasn't talking about burning down their house or screaming at them in public. That's not how I work. That's never how I worked. I wasn't the type to explode. I was the type to prepare. So I started preparing. The first step? Understanding what they needed from me now. I watched Owen's Instagram, finally unblocking just long enough to scan his posts. His captions were shorter. His eyes didn't sparkle the way they used to. No selfies. No group shots with his online friends. He looked lost. Probably because no one was making sure his life ran smoothly anymore. Next, I checked in on my school email, something I hadn't done in weeks. I found 3 emails from my old guidance counselor, 1 from my chemistry teacher, and 2 from the school office. And then I saw the email from the scholarship board. Apparently, I'd been nominated by one of my teachers for a college prep grant. A small one, but enough to cover course fees and books for a year of community college. The catch? I had to respond by the end of the month. I'd almost missed it. Mia sat across from me at the kitchen table while I reread the email. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" she asked, chewing the end of her pen. I nodded. If I go through with this, I could apply to transfer out next fall. Get my own place. Full independence. "You'd need more money," she said, but I could see the gleam in her eye. "I'll figure it out," I said. "I'm used to juggling 10 things at once. Except now it's for me." I applied for the scholarship that night. Then I emailed the community college and updated my profile with my new address, using Mia's apartment. I filled out every form like I was laying down chess pieces, every move designed to shift the power away from the people who thought I'd come crawling back. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I emailed my parents. Not a letter, not a text, an email. Cold, professional, bullet-pointed. "Dear Mom and Dad, I received your letter. Thank you for your concern. I'm safe and financially independent. I've enrolled in dual enrollment classes through community college. I've received a scholarship opportunity, which I intend to pursue. I appreciate the support you gave me during childhood. However, I no longer accept the imbalance in our relationship. Until you acknowledge the patterns that led me to leave, without gaslighting, guilt-tripping, or justifications, I will not be returning home. I wish Owen the best. Lila." I didn't sign it "Love, Lila." I didn't soften the tone. I hit send, and then blocked their email addresses, too. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I wanted clarity. I wanted to reclaim my voice. On my terms. The next day, Mia and I took a walk around town, window shopping, and sipping coffee. She was quiet for a while, then said, "You ever think about what your life would have looked like if they'd actually supported you?" "Sometimes," I said, "but I also wonder if I'd still be this version of me if they had." She gave me a long look. "You know, that's kind of poetic." I smiled. "Don't get used to it." That night, as I lay in bed, an idea struck me. One that made me sit up and grab my notebook. If they thought I was done, they were wrong. I wasn't going back to beg, but I was going to remind them exactly who I had been in that house. and what it meant to lose me. I made a list. Every holiday, every family event, every little thing I used to plan, coordinate, or fix without ever getting credit. Birthdays, grocery shopping, school project deadlines, bill reminders, chore charts, even the Wi-Fi password. I had updated it last summer after Owen changed it to something stupid and forgot it. Then I got a flash of brilliance. They were still using my email address to log into half the household's digital accounts. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, the shared cloud drive with all the family photos I had organized by year. All of it under my login. And I was still paying for 2 of those subscriptions. One from a Visa gift card my grandparents gave me last Christmas. I hadn't noticed because I barely checked the balance. That weekend, I logged into each account, one by one. I didn't cancel them. Not yet. Instead, I changed the passwords. Then I set the recovery email to my new one. Then I added a note to each account profile. This account is no longer managed by your unpaid housekeeper. Best of luck finding the remote. Mia laughed so hard, she dropped her cereal. Petty queen, she said between bites. But I wasn't done. Next, I made a checklist of the things I used to do. Owen's calendar reminders, his project supplies, my dad's don't forget sticky notes, my mom's meal plans. Then I scheduled messages. Yes, scheduled. Emails to be sent over the next month. All from a dummy email I created under a fake name, former daughter services. Each email was polite. Just a gentle reminder. Hello? This is a courtesy notification that Owen's midterm project is due in 2 days. You may want to check if anyone's actually started it. Reminder, monthly prescription refill for mom's migraine medication. Remember, Lila won't be making that call anymore. Hi there. Family Day is this Saturday. Don't forget to RSVP to the potluck you always made Lila bring food to. I timed them perfectly. Enough to rattle them. Not enough to start a war. I didn't want revenge through destruction. I wanted revenge through clarity. Through showing them exactly how much I had carried and how silently I had done it. And now, how it all unraveled without me. The final piece? The family group chat. I hadn't opened it since I left, but I still had access. One night, I typed a message. Just a few lines. Hey, just wanted to say thank you for teaching me what not to tolerate. I'm doing well now. I hope you figure out how to function without me. Good luck. Then I left the group. No dramatic exit. No shouting match. Just the soft click of a door closing. The emails started landing like little time bombs. Not all at once. No, I was more methodical than that. I wanted them spaced out. Just enough time between each one to give them a moment to recover before the next blow hit. Not to hurt them, necessarily, but to disorient them. To show them how many invisible plates I had been spinning on their behalf. How much of their life I had been quietly managing behind the curtain. The first email went out on a Wednesday morning. A reminder that Owen's science fair project, the one he had barely started back when I lived at home, was due in 3 days. I included a polite note. You may want to double-check the rubric to make sure everything's included. I'd help, but I'm no longer available for last-minute miracles. I imagined the look on my mom's face as she read that, coffee in hand, phone buzzing with a million responsibilities she used to pass off to me without a second thought. I imagined her scrolling, rereading it, realizing she had no clue where Owen even left the poster board from last year. The next email followed 2 days later. This one was for my dad. Hello? Your car's insurance renewal deadline is next week. You've missed it before, and I used to set calendar alerts for you. Might be a good time to sign up for those yourself. Mia watched me press send, eyebrows raised. You're savage. I didn't smile. I just said, no, I'm accurate. That weekend, I finally logged into the shared Google Drive that stored all our family's files. Photos, tax records, password spreadsheets, meal plans, emergency contacts, everything. And all of it was organized by me. I took my time sorting through it. Downloaded my personal files, my school documents, my essay drafts, my photo albums. Then I deleted my folders from the shared space. All the rest, I left exactly where it was. Except I renamed the top-level folder. It used to say, Family Stuff. I changed it to, Try doing it yourself. I logged out and never looked back. The next week, the fallout really began. I didn't hear about it firsthand, of course. I had no contact with them. But small ripples started surfacing from people around the edges, friends of the family, neighbors, old teachers who still followed me on social media. My former English teacher sent me a DM. Saw your mom at the store. She looked tired. Mentioned something about being spread thin lately. Hope you're doing well. Oh, I was doing well. I was thriving. Meanwhile, I heard Owen had to redo his science project from scratch. Apparently, he brought a half-finished board to school and blamed technical issues for why it wasn't done. That earned him a 0. And for once, my parents couldn't email a teacher into magically fixing it. Because the responsible one wasn't there anymore to pick up the slack. And then came the potluck. Family Day at our community center was a big deal. One of the few events where our entire extended family came together. Every year, my mom brought her famous lasagna. Correction, I made the lasagna. My mom just plated it and smiled for photos. This year, Mia and I showed up. We weren't invited, but the event was open to the public, and I had every right to be there. I walked in wearing a deep blue dress, hair down, makeup subtle, confident, calm, whole. My parents were already at their table. My mom turned first. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened slightly, then shut again. Owen sat next to her, face pale. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. I didn't walk over. I didn't wave. I just sat with Mia and a few cousins on the other side of the room. And that's when I heard it, the whisper from Aunt Celeste. Did you hear? Lila moved out. On her own. Got a job. Enrolled in college courses. All before 18. I caught a few heads turn. Some clapped softly. A couple of the older relatives gave approving nods. My mom's face flushed deep red. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. Not really. But for once, the spotlight was on me. Not for how well I served others, but for how boldly I had saved myself. Halfway through the event, the organizer walked over to our table. Hey, Lila, you used to bring that lasagna, right? People are asking if it's here. I smiled. Not this year. He looked disappointed. Well, if you ever want to share the recipe. I don't think I'll be handing it over, I said sweetly. Some things are earned, not gifted. Later, as the event wound down, I saw Owen making his way toward me. He looked uncomfortable, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders hunched. Hey, he said quietly, stopping a few feet away. You look different. I am different, I said. He glanced at the floor. Mom's been a mess. She keeps saying you'll come around. I tilted my head. What do you think? He hesitated. I didn't realize how much you did until you left. That surprised me. He looked up, and for the first time in a long time, his expression wasn't smug. It was regretful. I'm not saying sorry just to say it, he said. I was a brat. You did everything. And I thought it was normal. I think Mom and Dad thought so too. They're still mad, but I don't know. Maybe you were right to leave. I didn't respond right away. I didn't trust words anymore, not unless they came with actions. But something in his voice sounded genuine. Not perfect, not mature, but different. I'm glad you're realizing it, I said finally. That's step 1. He nodded. Step 2. Living without me. That made him crack a small, sheepish smile. Fair. I walked away without hugging him. I wasn't ready for that. But it didn't sting like it used to. I wasn't holding on to hope that they'd change anymore. I was simply letting go. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. This time, it wasn't from my mom. It was from my grandmother, my dad's mom. She had always been the quiet observer in the family, never really picking sides, never making waves. But she had noticed things. More than I realized. Dear Lila, I heard about everything. I won't pretend I know what it felt like, but I'm proud of you. I saw how they leaned on you. Too much. You were a child, and they treated you like a second parent. That's not fair. That's not love. That's dependency. Enclosed is a check. Don't tell your parents. It's not much, but it's yours. For school. For rent. For whatever helps you keep building this new life of yours. You didn't abandon them. You just saved yourself. Love. Grandma. I cried when I read that. Real, shaking, ugly tears. The kind that only come when someone finally says the thing you've been dying to hear for years. The check was for $2,000. It covered a semester's worth of books, 2 months' rent, and a cushion I'd never had before. I wrote her back. A thank you letter. And I promised her I'd pay it forward one day. A few months later, I moved into a tiny studio apartment of my own, not far from Mia, but finally mine. I still worked the cafe job, but I'd picked up some freelance graphic design gigs online. My grades were solid. My life was stable, quiet, peaceful. Sometimes, I'd still think about them. My parents. Owen. The house I grew up in. But it didn't ache anymore. It felt distant, like something I'd survived. And that That was the real revenge. Not the deleted files, or the snarky emails, or the missing lasagna. The real revenge was my joy, my stability, my freedom. Because nothing unsettles the people who tried to control you more than seeing you live a beautiful life without them. And I did. Final line. They stopped calling. And I never looked back.